get this recording going. All right, we're good to go. Okay, so with religion as part of culture, we are not so much requiring you to know the ins and outs of all these religions, but we are more looking at how this impacts geography. Okay, so as we learn a little bit about each one of these religions, we're going to focus on how do the members of these religions, the followers of it, interact with their physical environment. So what types of things can you see on what's called the cultural landscape? So far we have some examples, buildings and different symbols are big ones that you can see. And then we're also going to look at what about the religion makes it spread further around the world, or what keeps it in one location. So you don't have to be an expert on like the ins and outs of all these religions. It's not necessarily like world history, or if you're taking a religion class where you need to know kind of the core principles of it. But sometimes they do play in. So as we go through each one of these religions, I'm going to give you guys a very brief overview as to what the religion is all about. In fact, if you are a religious person, when we come across whatever religion you may have practiced your whole life, you will see how little we get in under the surface, right? It's just like a quick overview. All right, so some words to learn and know about so far is the difference between mono, which means one, and poly, which means many. And we're going to attach it to this root word of theism, which is dealing with the gods, right, and religion. So if it's a monotheistic religion, they worship one god. If it's polytheistic, or they're practicing polytheism, then they worship more than one god. The big thing that you might want to put a star next to when you are learning about this is if the religion is universalizing or if it's ethnic. Okay, so what that means is there's two different things, but the main thing that we're going to look at is universalizing religions seek out converts. They're trying to get people to join their religion. Okay, ethnic religions, you are born into the religion. There are ways that you can convert to ethnic religions, but that's not a big it's not urgent for them to go out and get more people to join. Okay, so for that reason, when we map out these religions around the world, you are going to see that universalizing religions are way more widespread around the world, where ethnic religions tend to stay in one spot. Okay. Also, the different holidays that they practice in those religions, a lot of times for universalizing religions, they're based on things that happen in the life of the founder. Okay, I'll give you an example of Christianity as a universalizing religion. It tries to get people to join Christianity. There are mission trips that take place all the time as people travel to try to teach people about the Bible. And many of those holidays are based on things that happen in Jesus Christ's life, like his birth or resurrection. All right. Ethnic religions, the holidays are usually based on something with the season or tied to the environment. So you get a little kind of it's not quite the same, but you get a little bit of similarities between popular culture with universalizing, much more widespread, okay, and ethnic with folk kind of more in the same spot. So we're going to jump through these different religions, and we're going to start with Christianity. It is the world's largest. Over 2.3 billion people practice Christianity in the world. I've already told you that it's universalizing, meaning that they are going out to try to get people to join. And they are monotheistic. They practice monotheism, so don't get tripped up by the end of the word there, right? But that just means they believe in one God. And what we'll learn as we move forward, which is usually people in my class don't always know this, is that Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, actually not only all three are monotheistic, but all three actually are praying to the same God. They're all kind of branched off. They're not branches of the same religion. They are three separate religions, but they all have shared roots. So as they're praying, they just have different names, whether they're saying in English or Arabic or Hebrew. They're all worshiping that same God, which is interesting since they have a lot of conflict throughout the world. The foundational beliefs, the basic beliefs, is that Jesus Christ died on the cross to take on the sins of humanity. You could read about this in their holy book, which is the Bible, which includes the Old Testament and the New Testament. So that Old Testament is the common root that you will see that Jews read and Muslims read as well when they're worshiping. In fact, Muslims refer to Christians and Jews as people of the book because the early parts of the religion, what they're reading, overlaps quite a bit. There are three main branches of Christianity, and when you look at these, at first there was one, and the seat was in Rome, which is in Italy. Okay, today this is Catholicism, or they call it the Roman Catholic Church. And at first there was a disagreement on who the Pope should be. So they actually elected two different popes, and there's an argument on who the true one was. And the people on the eastern side of Europe, so this key eastern here will help you when we look at the distributions of these religions. They decided to keep one of the popes and just move it over more towards Greece and Russia and parts of Eastern Europe over there. So they call themselves Eastern Orthodox. And there's a split, right? It's called the Great Schism. As time went on, if you learn in world history about the Reformation, the Catholic Church got pretty powerful and in some cases pretty corrupt, and people started protesting, particularly a man named Martin Luther, who nailed his 95 Thesis to the church door and started kind of being very vocal about how powerful the church is and how he doesn't like it. And he was protesting, so the Protestant movement took place and the church reformed. That's why they call it the Reformation. So anyhow, there's three main branches of Christianity. Okay, if you look at the distribution of where Christianity is in the world, remember, this is not so much a unit on learning all the religions. It's more of how does it affect in geography and human geography particularly. So if we look at the distribution of where Christianity is, you can see it following the path of European explorers. In fact, when we start talking about the age of exploration and colonization and stuff like that, a lot of history books talk about the three reasons why people went out to explore was the three G's. Which God, right, trying to expand the religion because it's universalizing, gold because people love gold, and glory because you get fame and people love to be rich. So we'll touch on those as well. But the universalizing aspect of it, people are going out to try to spread the religion. And it still takes place today. Many churches are constantly setting up trips to travel and teach other parts of the world about their religion. All right, so when you are looking at the map right here, you can see the darker the purple, the higher percentage of Christians. Okay, so you can kind of get a feel for where this is. If you know about world history, in Europe, a lot of them headed west and colonized all this. And now today you see a lot of missionaries taking place in Africa, different parts of Southeast Asia, and all over the world. So Christianity's the biggest one. If you're looking at landmarks or how humans interact with the environment and the physical and natural landscape, you start to see this cultural landscape. So the sign of the cross, big tall steeples are all examples of how you can see reflections of culture on the landscape. There's another cross. And then here's a very famous statue in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, of Jesus Christ. I had a student years back who was like, oh, there's the one of that guy standing out there. I'm like, you mean Jesus? She's like, oh, yeah, that's his name. So anyhow, these are reflections of culture and religion on the landscape. All right, as we move on to the next one, which is Islam, the second largest religion in the world and the fastest growing. It is likely it will be the biggest religion in the world in your lifetime. It is also universalizing, so try to get people to join. And as we said, it's monotheistic because it is they are worshiping the same God as the Christians and the Jews, right? They just use the Arabic word for God, which is Allah. And in this one religion is the only one that's different where the name of the religion, Islam, is different than the followers. Okay, they're called Muslims. And it has to do with the translation. So in Arabic, the religion of Islam is submission to the will of Allah. So if you submit, you give in, right? And the will, someone's will is what they want. Oftentimes we hear about someone's will after they die, they leave it in the will. You write up what you want to happen to your stuff after you die. In this case, Allah, their God, right? The religion is basically given to what God wants you to do, is how it translates. And then Muslims are those who have submitted. So you basically have the religion do what God wants you to do, and then the followers, those who are doing what God wants you to do. So in translation, it comes out to the religion of Islam and the followers of Muslim. Okay, so as we said, is this going to be the largest religion in the world, and you all are getting your education and want to graduate from high school sounding educated, it's worth taking the time to know the difference of those as you get in conversations in your life. All right, the core beliefs of Islam then is the fact that there is this guy Muhammad, and Muhammad lived in the Middle East on the Arabian Peninsula, and he was right in the heart of the crossroads of these two trade routes. And when trade started coming through his small town where everyone was pretty good people and everyone kind of knew each other, with it came a lot of greed, and he didn't like the greed. So what Muslims believe is Muhammad went to the hills to meditate, and when he was in the hills meditating, Angel Gabriel appeared and revealed kind of the final message from God, or Allah, the Arabic word for God, right? And the Muslims believe that this was the final revelation of God. So they believe that like Jesus was a prophet, who was around, but Muhammad is the final prophet, right? So this is the core belief. Their holy book is called the Quran. Sometimes you see it spelled with a Q, but same book. And then there's 5 pillars that kind of hold this religion up. So a pillar, like you see those big pillars that hold ceilings up of big tall buildings, these are more figuratively, right? So these are 5 things that you need to be doing to keep the religion going and afloat. So those have to do with faith in Muhammad as the final prophet and Allah as their God. There's prayer ceremonies, rituals that take place 5 times a day. There are alms, which are donations to the poor if you can afford it. A big one that you see is the month of Ramadan, where Muslims will fast from sun up to sundown. So they don't eat anything, they don't drink water, they don't chew gum, and that's for 1 month's time. And then the pilgrimage. So if you want to talk about migration, this is what College Board likes to do, is try to tie things together from multiple units. So if you're looking at reasons why people may be migrating to different parts of the world, there's a big pilgrimage that Muslims try to take called the Hajj at least once in their lifetime, and that is to Mecca in Saudi Arabia. So a little overview of that. As we get into their distribution, you can see all of the green, right? And you can ignore the different color green for now. This kind of started on the Arabian Peninsula, and as Muhammad took over, he created a government that was a theocracy. So he is mixing together both religion and the government. And when he did that, as he started to expand, right, the religion went with it. Now, he didn't expand it as far as you see here, but this is more in common terms of today. And when he died, there was a problem because they were in a patriarchy where men are in control of society, and he only had daughters to inherit, to be heirs to his rule. And there was a split on who should actually take over. Okay, so the Shia Muslims, who mainly live today in Iraq and Iran, they're the ones who believe that you need to get someone who's blood related to Muhammad to fill in as the true ruler of Islam. Whereas the Sunnis believe you just need to get the best person for the job. So they were more in favor of just a good ruler rather than one that's blood related. And the divide between these branches is much deeper than that, but that's at the basis of it. The Sunnis are much more dominant in population. In fact, 80 to 85% of Muslims today are Sunni Muslims. So you got the distribution there. And then if you want it in writing, so if you don't, as you're copying these notes, you want to look at this map, but if you don't print it, you got the Middle East along with Northern Africa and parts of Southeast Asia, right? As you look at how humans interact with the landscape, you see some beautiful mosques, which are the place of worship that represent Islam. Here's another one in Singapore. And then we're going to get into Buddhism.